Sarah Martinez stared at the resignation letter on her desk, her hand trembling as she reached for the pen. After 15 years of teaching, she was finally ready to give up, but she had no idea that in just 24 hours, one failing student would change everything she thought she knew about teaching, hope, and second chances. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in classroom 204, casting their harsh glow on rows of empty desks. Sarah had arrived early, as she always did, hoping to find some peace before the chaos began. At 42, she felt older than her years. The enthusiasm that had once burned bright in her heart had dimmed to barely glowing embers. It hadn't always been this way. Sarah remembered her first day teaching at Lincoln Middle School, how she decorated her classroom with motivational posters and bright colors. She believed she could make a difference, that every child deserved someone who believed in them. Her mother had always said, "We are called to plant seeds, even when we can't see the harvest." Remember what Paul wrote, "One plants, another waters, but God gives the growth." But the last 5 years had been different. Budget cuts meant larger class sizes and fewer resources. Parents seemed more interested in blaming teachers than supporting their children's education. And the students, well, many of them seemed to have given up before they'd even begun. Marcus Thompson was one of those students. 13 years old, sitting in the back corner of her 7th grade English class, he rarely spoke unless spoken to. His grades hovered around failing, and his assignments, when he bothered to turn them in at all, were rushed and careless. Sarah had tried everything she could think of: extra help sessions, modified assignments, even reaching out to his grandmother, who was raising him alone. Nothing seemed to work. The morning Sarah had planned to submit her resignation, Marcus walked into class with a black eye and a split lip. He slumped into his usual seat, hoodie pulled up, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Sarah's heart sank. She'd seen the signs before: the bruises, the withdrawn behavior, the anger that seemed to simmer just beneath the surface. During lunch, she found Marcus sitting alone in the hallway, picking at a sandwich that looked like it had seen better days. "Marcus," she said gently, sitting down beside him on the floor. "Are you okay?" He shrugged, not looking up. "I'm fine, Mrs. Martinez. You know, when I was your age, I used to think being fine meant I had to handle everything by myself," Sarah said. "It took me a long time to learn that sometimes fine isn't really fine at all." For the first time in months, Marcus looked directly at her. His eyes were tired, older than they should have been. "My mom came back," he said quietly. "She's been gone for 2 years, and she just showed up yesterday. Grandma let her in, and they got into a fight about money. About me." Sarah felt her heart break a little more. She'd worked with enough troubled kids to know that sometimes the people who were supposed to protect them were the ones who hurt them most. "Where are you staying tonight?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe with my friend Jalen. Maybe I'll just walk around." Sarah made a decision that would have seemed impossible just hours earlier. She thought of the verse her grandmother used to quote, "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you." "Marcus, I want you to know something. You matter. Your future matters. And no matter what's going on at home, you have people here who care about you. You're not alone in this fight." Marcus wiped his nose with his sleeve. "Nobody cares about me, Mrs. Martinez. I can't even pass your class." "That's not true," Sarah said firmly, "and I'm going to prove it to you." That afternoon, instead of submitting her resignation, Sarah stayed late to create a new plan. She remembered something her mentor had told her years ago, quoting Galatians, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." The next morning, Sarah approached Marcus before class began. "I have a proposition for you," she said. I know you're struggling with the essay assignments, but I've seen how you talk about music and movies. You have opinions, Marcus. You have thoughts that matter. What if we tried something different? She handed him a notebook, not a school-issued one, but a leather-bound journal she'd bought with her own money. I want you to write about anything you want. Songs, games, what you had for breakfast. I don't care. Just write. 1 page a day. That's it. Marcus looked skeptical. This counts for grades? This counts for you, Sarah said. And yes, it'll help your grade too. Over the next few weeks, something remarkable began to happen. Marcus started writing. At first, his entries were short and angry. Complaints about school, about a situation, about feeling invisible. But gradually, his voice began to emerge. He wrote about his grandmother's cooking, about the way music made him feel less alone, about dreams he was afraid to speak out loud. Sarah read every word, responding with encouragement and questions that showed she was truly listening. She began to see glimpses of the intelligent, creative young man hidden beneath a defensive exterior. One Tuesday afternoon, Marcus approached her desk after class, something he'd never done before. "Mrs. Martinez, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why do you keep trying with me? I mean, I know I'm not your best student." Sarah set down her pen and looked at him carefully. "Marcus, do you know what I used to want to be when I was your age?" He shook his head. "A teacher, just like I am now. But you know what? I almost quit last month. I had the resignation letter written and everything." Marcus's eyes widened. "Really? Why?" "Because I forgot something important. I forgot that teaching isn't just about grades and test scores. It's about seeing potential in people, even when they can't see it in themselves." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Marcus, there's a verse in Hebrews that says faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. I have faith in you, even when you can't see it in yourself." That evening, Marcus wrote his longest journal entry yet. He wrote about his father, who'd left when he was 5, about his mother's struggles with addiction, about his grandmother, who worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat and still found time to read him Bible stories every Sunday morning. He wrote about feeling lost, about anger that felt like fire in his chest, and about Mrs. Martinez, who'd been the first adult in a long time to treat him like he mattered. For the first time in years, he remembered something his grandmother had read to him from Jeremiah. "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." The breakthrough came 6 weeks later. Marcus had been working on a creative writing assignment about overcoming obstacles. Instead of the usual half-hearted effort, he'd poured himself into the work. The essay was raw, honest, and beautifully written. It told the story of a boy who lost his way but found hope in unexpected places. Sarah read it 3 times before she could trust herself to speak. When Marcus came to class the next day, she asked him to stay after. "Marcus, this essay, it's incredible. Have you ever thought about entering a writing contest?" He laughed, but it wasn't bitter this time. "Mrs. Martinez, nobody's going to want to read something I wrote." "I disagree, and I think you're selling yourself short." She handed him a flyer for a regional youth writing competition. The theme was second chances, and the deadline was only 2 weeks away. "I'll help you polish it if you want, but honestly, it's already powerful, just as it is." Marcus stared at the flyer for a long moment. "You really think I could win something like this?" "I think you have something important to say, and the world needs to hear it." 2 weeks later, Marcus submitted his essay. 3 weeks after that, Sarah got a phone call that changed everything. "Mrs. Martinez, This is Jennifer Walsh from the State Youth Writing Foundation. I'm calling about one of your students, Marcus Thompson. Sarah's heart began to race. Yes? His essay, Finding Home in the Storm, has been selected as one of our 3 state finalists. The prize is a full scholarship to our summer writing camp, plus a $500 award. Sarah had to sit down. When she told Marcus the news, he stared at her in disbelief. "I won something," he whispered. "You won something," Sarah confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. That afternoon, Marcus's grandmother came to school for the first time all year. She was a small woman with kind eyes and calloused hands, and when she hugged Sarah, she whispered, "Thank you for seeing my boy when nobody else would." At the awards ceremony 2 weeks later, Marcus stood at the podium in his best shirt and tie, reading excerpts from his winning essay. His voice was strong and clear, and when he finished, the audience gave him a standing ovation. But the moment that mattered most to Sarah came afterward, when Marcus found her in the crowd. "Mrs. Martinez, I need to tell you something," he said. "You saved my life. I don't mean that dramatic. I mean it for real. I was going to give up on everything, but you didn't give up on me. You showed me what my grandma always said about love, that it's patient and kind, and it never fails." Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. "Marcus, you saved mine too. You reminded me why I became a teacher in the first place." 6 months later, Sarah stood in front of her classroom, looking out at a new group of 7th graders. Some looked eager, others bored, a few downright hostile. In the back corner sat a girl who reminded her of Marcus, withdrawn, defensive, probably carrying burdens too heavy for her young shoulders. Sarah smiled and reached for a leather-bound journal, one of many she now kept in her desk drawer. Above her desk, she'd hung a small wooden sign with words from Isaiah. "So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." Sometimes the greatest victories come not from never falling down, but from learning to get back up. Sometimes faith isn't about having all the answers, but about trusting that God can use our small acts of love to accomplish something beautiful. And sometimes the students who teach us the most are the ones we almost gave up on. Marcus went on to attend the writing camp that summer and discovered a passion for journalism. He's now a sophomore in high school, maintaining a B+ average and working on the school newspaper. His grandmother still sends Sarah updates, and Marcus himself stops by to visit whenever he can. The resignation letter Sarah had written that dark morning now sits in her desk drawer, not as a reminder of defeat, but as a testament to second chances. Above it, she's taped a note Marcus wrote to her. "Thank you for believing in me before I believed in myself. You showed me that God's love is real because I saw it through you." Every day, Sarah is reminded that teaching isn't just about imparting knowledge. It's about being vessels of hope and grace. And sometimes when we're brave enough to offer hope to others, we discover that we've been given a second chance at hope ourselves. As Proverbs says, "Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." And Sarah learned that the teacher who saves her students might just find that they've saved her too.